What I have prepared for you guys now, we will be discussing the Green Bay Packers and how they fared in the 2021 NFL Draft. This is a team I was looking forward to doing that I have not gotten around to doing up until today. So we'll just kind of dive into it, starting off with the team needs of Green Bay. I have a few things listed on this one here. It's no like particular order, but it is kind of ordered by importance. The number one, I would say like, and it's kind of split evenly, like the number one, number two, like, or 1A, 1B kind of deal is wide receiver and linebacker. Those are probably the biggest team needs that they had going into this draft here. Then from there, cornerback I have listed, D-line I have listed. Those are a little bit less pressing needs, but cornerback is probably slightly higher than the D-line there. And then the least important of them all, because Green Bay has a really strong unit, I have offensive line listed because they did lose Corey Linsley in the free agency market. He was obviously their center, so kind of a loss there. He's the guy that's in sync with the quarterback. You know, the play starts with them, so it is kind of a loss. He directs the entire, offensive line, pass protections, run blocking, all that stuff. He basically, alerts the entire line of changes and things like that. So still kind of an important thing that they needed to look at that I have listed on there. Now, we'll run through the picks. I'll talk about the players and, I'll highlight some of them and we'll give our grade and kind of see how they fared. And I'm definitely curious to see what you guys think. Welcome to the show, William Mislit. Appreciate you for stopping by. We're talking Green Bay Packers. So round number 1, pick 29, cornerback Eric Stokes out of Georgia. This is their first pick of the draft here. Experienced press cover cornerback. He has great hands, 4 interceptions in 2020. So always a positive there. Cornerback that can catch the football. Granted, 2 were kind of overthrown straight to him. Whether you want to take that away from him or not, I'll leave that up to you. He's a very fast corner as well, 4.3 speed. Some of the knocks that came on this player here, he's not a fluid mover. He's labeled as grabby, which can be an issue, especially in the NFL, because if you're already grabby in college, the competition level only increases and gets more difficult, which then could lead to even more excessive grabbing, and then you become like prone to more penalties. His instincts aren't indicative of the 2020 interceptions he had. That was something that I noted and I kind of just brought up when I was talking about the 4 picks he had. He had none the 2 seasons prior, and people were saying that because 2 of those interceptions were overthrows that kind of went straight to him, can you really like give him credit for all 4 of the picks? I say yes to an extent because you're not necessarily like ready for that kind of stuff. Like that stuff doesn't just happen. There is, a little bit of cause for concern, but I think overall he's a solid cornerback. I think he's really good. I'm not a fan of the pick though. I'm just going to start that out and say that there. To be completely honest with you guys, I am among the people that really thought Green Bay, if they wanted to make things work with Aaron Rodgers, they needed to go after a wide receiver in this draft. I have made it very clear I am not a fan of the Love pick from last year for Green Bay. They really needed to, if they really wanted to appease and show that Aaron Rodgers, hey, we're really trying to work around you and build around you, they needed to commit to a high pick that went to the wide receiver position. So I don't like the pick. I don't think it's great. Cornerback is not the highest need that they have, but it was a somewhat high need on the team. But there's just between that and linebacker, those, in my opinion, prioritized over corner, and I'm just surprised that they went corner in the first round. Going into round number 2, pick 62, they took center Josh Myers out of Ohio State. This is a pick that, I think it's a team need. And again, I address the center position as kind of like not the most important need that they have because their offensive line together as a whole is really good. But it is pretty important of a position because it runs the rest of the entire unit there. But I mean, he offers good athleticism. Some say he could even, if he ends up not starting there, he could even switch over to guard, something like that. He has the athleticism for it. He's really good at getting to the second level, and he's not afraid to pancake people. He's a kind of an aggressive guy once he gets up to that second level there. I, however, have labeled this as a reach. A lot of people considered him a day 3 pick. Like he was graded at the lowest that I saw. Some places had him in round 5. So that's a day 3 pick. Definitely somebody that they could have waited on grabbing. A lot of people were saying that he wasn't even the best center on the board when they drafted him. Quinn Miners was there, and a lot of people were higher on him, even though he played at a smaller school against lower competition, just his overall physical traits and the kind of player he was. People all agreed that Miners was a better option there. So, again, I'm not a big fan of the pick. This is a reach. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I understand, yes, they needed center, and I'm even saying, yeah, you needed a center, but you could have waited for you could have waited for Myers. So, a reach of a pick. I don't think it was the best option for them in the second round. Again, there was some wide receivers you probably could have gone after, somebody that could have been at least a strong number 2 target beside Devontae Adams if you weren't going to go wide receiver in round number 1. Going into round number 3, finally, we get some wide receiver addressing here. They go after Clemson wide receiver Amari Rogers. I think this will be good. He might be limited to just being a slot guy, but I mean, he's really great after the catch, super strong legs, kind of hard to take down. He has very good straight line speed. So, a guy that can run the seams really quickly. Separation issues are probably the biggest concerns that I found when I was going through the scouting reports on him, especially with underneath and intermediate routes. And he doesn't have a ton of contested catch wins. For somebody who caught so many passes from Trevor Lawrence during Trevor Lawrence's time there, he was not in a lot of situations winning contested catches. He only won 5 out of the 17 he found himself in through college, which was a little bit surprising to me because I feel like I was hearing Amari Rogers' name a lot. And so when I actually went back and looked at it and I found the numbers, I was a little bit surprised to see this. So that'll be something of a question as well. Can he win those big-time catches and be a difference maker for the offense? Now, going into the later days of the round, this is the meat and the potatoes of the draft. In round number 4, at pick 142, they took tackle Royce Newman out of Ole Miss. He had some solid games against Alabama, Florida, Auburn, and I stress the word solid. On top of that, he started at guard and tackle, so a multifaceted offensive lineman, something you definitely want to look for when you're drafting a lineman late is, how versatile can he be for my team? On top of that, above average footwork, reaction time's pretty good. He's a project guy. I mean, I think, there's some things about his game that stand out on tape. He's I appreciate you for stopping by, William, but he's a project player. He's a victim of the bull rush. He's gotten, almost run over a lot by a lot of people. And on top of that, he gets stood up a lot and he plays a little high. So again, a project player. He's a late round guy. I'm glad that they're going after the offensive line because they do have some guys that are getting close to the ends of their contracts that are going to cost a lot of money to replace. And if they're really trying to keep Aaron Rodgers, you're going to assume that Aaron Rodgers is probably going to command some more money. So, things to think about, for the future. I like the pick to an extent. I think it's fine. Then in round number 5, they addressed the Dean line. They got Terrell Sutton out of Florida. This is like a high upside player pick that they have here. Huge size. The dude's 6'5", 340 pounds, really good frame, explosive first step. And on top of that, he's really, really strong driving players. He can really, move an offensive lineman from his grounding. And on top of that, he has a club of an arm. So he's really, not afraid to really swing and, swing for the fences, so to say, I guess is the best way to put that there. He has had some weight concerns and the motor's inconsistent. So while he's very, very strong and powerful and he can drive a lineman, when you look at his tape, he's a little inconsistent. Some plays he's driving, other plays he looks like he's tired. So, and I think that's more of just like the whole weight concern issues and the conditioning issues. That's something that'll have to be, kept track of as he progresses through the first few years of his NFL career. I think it's a good pick. This is more of like a high upside, low production guy. I don't want to say it's a bad pick. I want to say it's a pretty good pick. You get somebody who could potentially be really good. He didn't produce the numbers at Florida that you would have expected, but he ended up being, a really good guy to be taking in the 5th round there where there's so much upside if he learns how to, if he learns the techniques and, they have guys like Kenny Clark, so there's good people to learn behind. And I think he's a really good project player for them. In round number 5 at pick 178, you have cornerback Shamar Jean-Charles. He's from Appalachian State. He only allowed 17 out of 52 catches this past season. So that's really good, really sticky corner, a guy who can stay on his man and break up the passes. 25 PBUs and 2 ints in the last 2 seasons. So that's really good as well. PBUs are pass breakups, ints, interceptions, in case you didn't know. And on top of that, he's really good at reading the quarterback and wide receivers and kind of like that unspoken conversation that they have on the field, putting him in a good position to break up plays. This is another, I think, good late round pick. The biggest knock really was that he's not the most physical corner, and the competition level he went up against is low. So that might expose him once he makes it to this next level in the NFL. But he did his job, and he did his job really well against, the competition he had put up against him. It's not really his choice who he's playing. So ultimately, whether he ends up being effective at the next level and he can take some of the ability he brought at that college level into the NFL remains to be seen. But again, I think another guy that he's shown the promise, he shows he has the ability and he understands what he needs to be doing. It's just, can he take it to that next level and play against some of those wide receivers from the NFL? This is actually a round 6 pick. We have tackle Cole Van Lenin from Wisconsin. This is just a project player. Again, in the later rounds, you're looking for people that probably aren't going to start. They're going to be guys that you work with. I think it's a solid pick. I don't want to say it's a bad pick. Solid pick, late round tackle, a guy that you can hopefully develop. And should anything crazy happen with some of your, better offensive linemen you have starting now when their contracts are up, you have somebody hopefully waiting in the wings that can plug into that spot and at least take their place and be effective until they find a replacement if he's not the guy, or he ends up becoming the replacement if he is the guy. Another round 6 pick at 220, linebacker Isaiah Mcduffie out of Boston College. This guy has a really great motor, very awesome work ethic. So this is somebody that I think will be really good for them, especially depth-wise. Not afraid to deliver the big hit, and he keeps going back for it. He's very gritty. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but we've talked about this a lot in some of the draft grade videos. The linebackers in the NFL appear to be becoming smaller and smaller to make up for how fast these, the tight ends and wide receivers are becoming. The big old 6'5", 250-pound linebacker is kind of a thing of the past. You don't really get those too much anymore. And when you look at guys like Darius Leonard, who's, he's like 6'2", 6'3", he played around like the 220 mark himself, and Isaiah Mcduffie is, I believe, 6'1", 220 something. So, around the same size, roughly, maybe a little bit shorter, but around same size weight-wise. He's not the best in coverage, so that'll be something that you'll have to work on, because if you're going to be one of those smaller backers, you need to be good in coverage. That's kind of how that whole thing translates. If you're not going to be the big thumping linebacker, you got to be the cover linebacker who can stay on, the tight ends that are moving inside the field, or those slot wide receivers, and at least being able to hold them up for a few seconds. Then, to cap off their draft, round 7, pick 256, running back Kylan Hill out of Mississippi State. This guy, I think, is going to be a really good pick for them. This is a really good depth at the running back position. Great size, violent. He's a steamroller type of guy. He's not afraid to jump over a defender and actually get and jump the defender. That's the thing, is there are players who are not afraid to jump defenders, but they aren't able to do it. He's a guy that can jump, who's not afraid and can actually jump the defender. And on top of that, the dude can carry the rock. Not a single fumble since his sophomore year of high school. That is quite a stat right there when I was doing my homework on him. Not a single fumble since his sophomore year of high school. So you're talking about a guy that can carry the rock and, keep it protected. You can trust him with the football in his hand. Some of the knocks on him were his lack of patience. That could be an issue in the NFL. In the NFL, you sometimes have to wait a little bit more for things to develop because, the athleticism and everything is just so much higher. It takes a little bit more for things to kind of shape up inside the tackles when you're waiting for those big runs. On top of that, he struggled against some of the bigger teams. So people are concerned that, he was more of like a guy that was just chomping on the little teams, but then not showing up against the bigger teams. He struggled against LSU, Bama, and Auburn. And he has very average hands for somebody who was running like intermediate routes and was having targets sent his way while he was playing in Mississippi State. So he has some good upside. I think this is a really good late round pick for them, just adding depth to the running back room. You never know with the running back position how long people are going to last. So I think having, depth in the backfield of just a strong rotation is always a good thing. The running back position seems like you get like a 4 or 5 year lifespan out of guys these days. So, or at least the coaches seem to think so and teams seem to think so. That's the way the turnover seems to be. Now, for my overall grade, I put a lot of thought into this one here because I'm very unhappy with some of the early picks, but then I think some of the later picks, they got like really solid project guys, and they filled the team holes that they had. They added some depth at positions they needed. But I feel like the early round picks, just they have more weight to them, obviously. So it's going to affect the grade on this one. I'm going to give them a C+. I think that's better than what I've seen some others grade them. I've seen grades as low as a D- for the Packers. I don't think it was that bad of a draft class for them. It was more so they just didn't go after what people wanted them to go after. So that's why I think some people gave them those grades. But I think they got a solid C+. You know, while they didn't get what everyone wanted them to go after, they went after some solid players. They did have some reaches. The Myers pick in the second round, I mean, man, he was graded low in some places. And so curious to see how that works out for them. But, you know, I think it's not too high, not too low. It's right in the middle, C+. I'm happy with that grade. I think that works well for them. I would definitely like to know what you guys think in the comments down below. So please let me know what you guys think of how the Green Bay Packers end. Packers fans, if you hate me for this one, I'm sorry, but that's just kind of how I look at your draft class.